study serve for delight, for ornament and ability? Which literary device? Which figure of speech? Yes, this is our topic for today. Good morning, law aspirants, and here we are with the second class of our literary devices, which are also called figures of speech. We had the last one of literary devices. In this we did, that is, similes, metaphors and personification, and 3-4 literary devices we did, and we were left with some more and some good questions to be done in the end. It's very important, like every student has this doubt in the mind that is literary device going to be a part of our syllabus, and I answered this in my first video of literary devices, that literary devices questions have been put up in the CLAT sample paper. 1 or 2 questions have been there. So it makes it quite clear that they're going to give you questions on literary devices, and since you must be thorough with them, and so I do a quick recap of what I did in the class 1, and I have some questions. Many students mailed me, they asked their doubts and concerns, they wrote many questions, and I told you the best method of doing literary devices is take a pen and paper, keep writing your examples. Please write all those examples which you come in your mind. You know, while doing literature, you have to fly on the wings of imagination. It's very important that you not only grasp the topic, you take the topic in heart. You imagine yourself in that position, and then you are able to do the questions perfectly and correctly. Now, to begin with, the first literary device that we did in the earlier class was simile. Now, when I started with, I told you that English language is divided in 2 parts. We call it English language, but English as a broad subject is divided in 2 parts, that is language and literature. Language is including grammar and all those things which are part of the structure of the language, and literature includes poetry, prose, drama and fiction and many more things related with, because literature means something that is best, that is thought and said in this world. And so when you're doing figures of speech, you have to have a knowledge of the basic literary device. See, a student cannot say that I am from the art stream, or I am from the commerce stream, I am from this science stream. Okay, you may be from any of the streams, but in that case it's very important that you must have a thorough knowledge of the basic literary devices. The first literary device we did in the earlier class, the class 1, which I had the live class, that was simile. Simile is a comparison between 2 things, and you have to have a use of like, as, such or so, any of these words. Like she's like a Barbie doll, she's like cute like a Barbie doll. This is a simile. When you make a comparison but you do not use like, as, such or so, this is called metaphor. It is a comparison. She is a Barbie doll. Just the word is omitted. The meaning is the same. Both the sentences are the same, but this is an omission of the word. So simile is a comparison. Metaphor is a comparison. We'll talk of conceit also in the classes that will come. That is also comparison. It's a far-fetched comparison. Then we talked of personification. When we attribute the qualities of a person to a thing, then we call it personification. Like the tree smiled at me, evening sang her song. This is personification. Then we talk of hyperbole. Hyperbole means exaggeration. When you exaggerate the thing, you talk in a very high-flown language. This is called, that is the word we use for this, hyperbole. Alliteration is the repetition of the same letter. And when we are using this word, when you're using epigram, epigram means you're using the word which is a well-known saying, which is a well-known phrase, and this phrase has been handed to us linked with some story or some mythology. Now beginning with the further literary devices for today's class. Literary devices, before we take up in a theoretical form what is the definition for literary devices. A figure of speech is a departure from the ordinary form of expression or the ordinary course of ideas in order to produce a greater effect. You know, this is not the normal consequence of the words. The words are arranged in such a way that you understand what is the word saying, and there is an in-depth meaning. In English, there is a surface meaning and there is a symbolic meaning of the word. So what is the writer trying to say? What is the symbolic meaning of this word? What is the in-depth meaning, or you have to read between the lines to understand it. And it's very simple for you to understand because you can detect those literary devices. What is the writer trying to say in these lines? Moving on further, figures of speech are divided or classified those on the basis of resemblance, like simile, comparison I just talked about. When there is a comparison to things, please students, the best method, don't say I don't know, I didn't get it, this is a doubt. See, please write your examples, write in your notebook, this is what is simile, this is what is metaphor, write your examples for it, put up questions. When you are going to do that if you are not doing it today? It's very important that you understand simultaneously and make your own examples. Personification, when you are attributing the qualities of person, a thing which is a non-living thing, you consider the thing as person. An apostrophe is you're addressing to something, like, oh wild west wind. You are addressing to something and it is obvious that the thing would not answer you back. There are some of the figures of speech which are based on contrast, such as antithesis or epigram. Antithesis is just a opposite thing, two opposite things which are put together. See, when the two opposite words put together, like we did oxymoron, Tughlaq was the wisest fool of the 14th century. So when we say the wisest fool, wisest and fool, these are two opposite words, so it's an oxymoron. But when there are two contradictory statements, two contradictory sentences, then it is an antithesis. Two contradictory statements, first sentence and the second sentence, both the sentences are contradictory to each other. An epigram is a well-known saying. It has in-depth hidden meaning in it. There are some of the figures of speech which are based on association, such as metonymy. In metonymy, because it's from the Greek word metonym, nym means name. You assign another name. That means you use a substitute, use a synonym name for that. And synecdoche is when we're going to do it today, when part becomes whole and whole becomes part. It's a kind of a relation which is a part-whole relationship, in which part represents whole and whole represents part. Right? There are some which are dependent on the construction, like climax and anticlimax. A twist and turn comes in the story, that's a climax. Anticlimax is from the highest order to the lowest order we move on, and that is anticlimax, right? So beginning with today's literary device, that is irony. Before, it's you've seen that when we have this lecture every time with literary devices, what I do is, first, I explain you in a simple layman language before we turn to the meanings that I want you and the examples I want you to go for. So, what does actually irony mean? Irony means what you think opposite of that happens. You know, see a simple example from day-to-day life. If I say there is heavy clouds, there are, black clouds in the sky and it's about to rain. Right? And suddenly the weather changes, and instead of the heavy showers of rain, it becomes the scorching heat of the sun and the clouds disappear. So this is what is irony. In literature, Jane Austen was called the queen of irony. All the, novels she has written. I had prescribed various novels in the vocabulary class to read, whether it was Pride and Prejudice or Emma or Persuasion or Sanditon, Northanger Abbey, Sense and Sensibility, wonderful novels. The best novels which you want. If you really want to understand what irony is, not by a sentence, I would suggest you to read at least one novel of Jane Austen. I've given you a long list in my vocabulary classes, and I'm still giving you the same. She was the best Victorian novel. She was called the queen of irony, and all her novels were drenched with irony. Every sentence, every example, it was so I had given you an example, when you're thinking it's about to rain and it becomes very hot, when you feel like literary devices are not going to come in the examination, and you don't even read the chapter, and then there are 5 to 10 questions on literary devices. This is life. This is ironical. Who had thought that we'll be stuck in our houses because of this pandemic corona, and because of this corona we are going to have our online classes, and that will form a base for our preparation? This is ironical. See, you find it in day-to-day life everywhere. What is irony? So irony is a mode of speech in which the real meaning exactly the opposite of that which is literally conveyed. What you're trying to say is just the opposite of that. Now the examples of irony, no doubt, but you are the people and wisdom shall die with you. No, so you are the people and wisdom will die with you. So if you are the important people, how can wisdom die with you? This is ironical. The atrocious crime of being a young man, which the honorable gentleman has, with such spirit and decency charged upon me, I shall neither attempt to palliate nor deny. So the crime that a person is being put up is that he is a gentleman, and for this he would not even deny that he is a gentleman, nor he would accept this charge on him. So this is an ironical statement. See, when you have to understand irony, you have to go into the depth of literature. So I'm requesting you, the best method to understand irony is, when you find the tone of the passage. See, English is a composite whole. You can't separate one thing from, ma'am, I can't understand the passage. Ma'am, this word is not clear. Well, the synonym is not known. See, dear, grammar, or whether it's vocabulary, or whether it's literary device, or whether it's a passage, you have to study English as a whole. Develop a habit of reading at least 1 hour a day. And I've told you, if you don't have anything to start with Jane Austen's novels to read, and you find them, all of them. Even if you don't find the novel because of this kind, you can't go to the market, no problem. Read the synopsis of the novel which is available on the net, yes, and then you can read the synopsis, you understand what irony I'm talking of. And I've told just a total twist and turn in the situation takes place, and what you think and what actually happens, there's this great difference, there's a vast gap between the two, and this is what is called is irony. So we have taken irony, it's a mode of speech in which the real meaning is exactly opposite to what actually the literary meaning is conveyed. Let's continue some more examples. We have all heard of Julius Caesar, the great historical play of Shakespeare. Yes, Julius Caesar. I think most of you had this in your course in the 12th standard, 10th or 11th standard. I do not know. We had wonderful speeches of Brutus, Julius Caesar, Antonius, and here under leave of Brutus and the rest, for Brutus is an honorable man, so are they all honorable men. Come, I speak in Caesar's funeral. Brutus was the best friend of Julius Caesar, and it was Brutus who stabbed Julius Caesar, and the last words of Julius Caesar were, "You too, brute." That means I never expected, I thought you are my best friend, I never thought that you are going to kill me, and you are also killing me. You are also doing the same. Come, I speak in Caesar's funeral. He was my friend, faithful and just to me. And Brutus says he was ambitious, and Brutus is an honorable man. See the ironical tone. In the passage, tone of the passage, you sometimes find this irony. That is, what is the writer saying is actually not what is the meaning in say. If I say, the butter I was applying on the toast today, it was as soft as marble. So I'm using simile, but I'm also using irony. Butter, and it was very soft, and it was soft like marble. Is marble supposed to be soft? No. So what is the meaning? And there's an in-depth meaning on that, and this is what is irony. I hope it is clear to you by the examples that I've quoted that what is irony. I've asked you to read Jane Austen's novels to understand the meaning of the word irony. To move on, the next literary device, that is pun. Now again, to explain you in the simple words, pun is actually a foreplay of words. It's just you play with your words. I want to give you one example from Twelfth Night of Shakespeare. There was a fool. There's, all the comedies of Shakespeare's have fools, and there's a great fool in that. The name of the fool was Festi. So he was a great fool, and everybody was considering him a fool, but actually he was not a fool. The fool was the wisest person in the play. Yes, this itself is an irony. So you call him the fool, but he's the wisest person, the fool. Now the fool, he has a talk with the heroine, that is Olivia, and Olivia says that you are a fool, and you are a dry fool. So he says, if I'm dry, why not give me liquor? I'll become a wet fool. And when he's put up a question that do you live by the church? Do you live by the church? He answers in a punny manner, using the literary device pun. That is a play of words. I am a fool and I am living by the church. Yes, sir, I do live by the church because my house is by the church, but I do not live by the church. You must be wondering, what is ma'am saying? What is, lost in mind? No. This is pun. This is Shakespeare's, whenever Shakespeare is using pun in his literary devices, he plays with words. Now I explain you the meaning and you will find it really very funny. He says, I live by the church means my house is near the church. I live by the church. But I do not live by the church means I do not live by the church here means I do not earn the money, or my livelihood is not dependent on the earnings of the church. So, sir, I live by the church, but I do not live by the church. So, this is just a play of words, changing and twisting the words in such a way that creates fun. It becomes a mirthful, happy, flippant situation, and that is called a pun. So I read out now the definition for you. A pun consists in the use of the words in such a way that it's capable of more than one application. That means it will have more than one meaning. There's one more meaning, hidden meaning in it. The object being to produce a ludicrous effect. Ludicrous is funny effect. It creates a fun out of it. So main purpose is play of words. First thing, when you're learning literature device, remember those little tidbits, those small little things you have to, the gist to the matter which you have to grasp in your mind. So there is more than one meaning, and the object produces something which is a very funny effect. Now, is life worth living? It depends upon the liver. Now, life depends upon the liver. This creating a funny situation. This question was a part of the AILET paper. I want you to quote this. 2019, that is just last year, we had this question in the AILET paper, DNLU, and this question was there. See, you will have a sparkle in your eyes if the same question comes in any of the, papers of CLAT. And since CLAT has given us a symbol that they are going to put up questions on literary devices, it's obvious, it is understood that they're going to put up question on literary devices. So the second example that I've quoted, an ambassador is an honest man who lies abroad for the good of his country. Ambassador is an honest man and he lies abroad, means he lies outside his country for the good of his country. Means lies here has two meaning. He speak lies, right? And second, he sleeps. That is, he's lying there. Sleeping means in this, the resting there. He's resting or he's living in some other country and he's speaking falsehood in some other country and he's doing everything for the good of his country. Now turning to the next literary device, very, very important, metonymy. It's from the Greek word meton, and there's a root word in this, nym. Nym means name. So it simply means substitution. You do a kind of a substitution. So in metonymy, there's a literary meaning, that is a change of the name. The object is designated by the name of something which is generally associated with it. It is not actually the word, it gives a substitute meaning. So some familiar examples that you find here. The bench. The bench is used for the judges. So metonymy is a change of the name, first thing. So there is a substitution. The word is there, but it means something. The famous metonymy which I want you especially to remember, pen is mightier than a sword. The word pen means, the word pen stands for the pen write on its own? No, the word pen means the writer. Writer is mightier than a sword. Sword means the person who fights, the warrior. Warrior would fight with a sword and the writer would fight with his pen. And out of the two, if you make a comparison, naturally a writer is better than a swordsman. So there's a change in the name. The designated name is actually standing for something. If you don't understand anything, the simple method to remember, it stands for something else. It's a change of the name. The name is totally changed and it gives another word for it. Now some examples for it. The bench stands for the judges, stands for something, symbolizes something, right? You would remember by this word. That metonymy, it's a substitution. One word definition. What does it metonymy mean? Metonymy means substitution. You substitute it by the word. The bench, it stands for the judge. The house, it stands for the members of Lok Sabha. The laurels, laurels used to stand for success. Laurels, he won laurels. That means he has got successful. The red coat stands for the British soldiers. The blue jacket stands for the sailors. And the crown stands for the king. So we had question on this also, and stay tuned. I'm going to ask you also questions. I have a quiz after end of this class, and I'm going to put up question on metonymy also there in that point. Now there are many kinds, since there are many kinds of association between the objects, there are several varieties of metonymy, lot of metonymies are there. So metonymy will result because of the use of the sign for the person or thing symbolized. I told you, you have to reform, whenever you have any doubt for metonymy, you'd remember just two words, that is substitution, and the other word you're going to remember is symbolizes. Like, orange color in our national flag symbolizes bravery, white color symbolizes peace, and green color stands for prosperity. Same way, You must address the chair. Are you going to address the chair? Is the chair going to talk to you? So chair means here the chairperson. So when you sign from the person or thing symbolize from the cradle to the grave, that means cradle from the child when he's in the cradle to the grave, that means from childhood to his death. The whole part is being covered. The container for the thing contained, as the whole city went out to see the victorious general. The whole city went out to see the victorious general. Here, the container is standing for the thing, that is the whole city. Here refers, the city didn't go, the people went, and for the victorious general. The kettle boils. Does the kettle boil actually, or the tea boils? So the word kettle stands for the tea or the beverage in that, and that is boiling. Forthwith he drank the fatal cup. Is the cup actually fatal? No. What is actually fatal? See, ask yourself a question. So when I started with metonymy, I told you it's a very important literary device, and I told you that metonymy means substitution. Metonymy means it stands for something. So when you talk of metonymy here, the fatal cup, the cup is neither victorious or the cup is neither fatal. So what you're drinking, forthwith he drank the fatal cup when Hamlet was about to die. You know, he was killed by the trap his stepfather Claudius had led for him. So he drank the fatal cup and he died. So this cup means actually the cup is not fatal. It refers to the poison here. He keeps a good cellar. Cellar refers to the storeroom, the kind of things where he stores. He was playing to the gallery. Gallery here refers to the people, the audience who were listening to him. This is also again an example from AILET. See, I've done a thorough study for you for the AILET paper for CLAT. Whenever students see the literary device, the first and foremost thing they tell me is, it's not CLAT. CLAT mein to nahi aate ma'am ye questions. Literary device is not part of CLAT. See dear, first thing, what is hidden in the palms of future, we do not know. Second thing, giving the question on simile and literary device, CLAT has given an indication that yes, they are going to ask questions on literary device. In the third sample paper, I'd even given in the first class, I told you what are the questions they've asked related to literary device. So my suggestion would be devote, at least go through my three classes that I've made, the 3 lectures I've made on this topic of literary device, and do go through it and understand it. If you face any doubt, spending or giving just a couple of hours, 2 or 3 hours to literary devices, making your own examples is not going to charge you much, but you're going to be benefited surely. I'm 100% sure, I assure you, 1 or 2 questions will be of course there on literary devices, and your hard work would not go waste. So he was playing to the gallery. The word here, gallery, stands for the people. He was undoubtedly the best stable in the country. Unstable means, in the sense here, the word stable stands for horses. Naturally, horses are kept in stables. So you didn't have stable. Your stable is good or bad is not important. What is important? You had the best. If we were at the best classrooms in law prep, we mean is the best students, the law aspirants, the bright students who are there, and they're able to perform well. Look at the other things. The instrument for the agent, as I discussed the example, the pen is mightier than the sword. The pen stands for the writer. The sword stands for the warrior. Whenever you confuse for metonymy, remember the word, which 2 words? Substitution, right? And symbolizing something else, right? The author for his work, we are reading Milton. Are you reading Milton actually? Are you reading Milton? Can you read Milton? I was reading her, or I was reading her book. I have read the complete Shakespearean. Can I read Shakespeare? I have read Shakespeare. I have read Shakespeare's sonnets is okay, or Shakespeare's dramas or tragedies is okay, but how can I read Shakespeare as a person? I can't. So the word Shakespeare stands for Shakespearean work, Shakespearean sonnets, Shakespearean tragedies, dramas, or whatever is his output. So the word is standing for substituting or symbolizing something. Do you read you slid at your school, you routine of being a teacher of English, and especially I insist on vocabulary. You mean something good, some good book which gives you a good philosophy or memory. So this is actually a writer's name. And have you read that? That means in fact you've read his book or read his works. Moving on to synecdoches. I do not want my students to be confused, especially with three things. Like, see, I have divided them in separate categories. I separated my lecture also in this. When you're talking of simile, metaphor and conceit, these three are linked together. Simile is a comparison between two things, but there has to be a usage of the word like, as, such or so. Metaphor is a comparison between two things, but there is no use of like, as, such or so. Conceit is a comparison, it's a far-fetched comparison. Now comparing the two things, metonymy is substitution. Synecdoche is a part of metonymy. Not to be confused, synecdoche is actually metonymy only. So what is the difference? The difference is that when you're doing synecdoche, please pronounce with me, synecdoche. Synecdoche is actually used to represent the part and whole relationship. The part stands for whole and whole stands for part. It is a part of metonymy, so naturally there is substitution and there is a kind of, the symbolizing technique here too, because it's a part of it. But in this you will be easily able to determine that this thing stands for something and it covers the whole area. I came by the wheels, by the word wheel. Naturally I will not take the wheel. The wheel could be car, it could be bus, it could be cab, it could be an auto, it could be anything else, any vehicle. But then it is a part-whole relationship. So when I'm doing this word, you have to keep this in mind. I'm giving you examples from day-to-day life so that you're so thorough with the topic, you don't face any problem. When I say teaching is my bread and butter, my bread and butter, so it is not the bread and butter. The word here means my livelihood, my source of living. I have been teaching for the last 20 years, and it is like something which, gives you the livelihood. So this is actually standing for something. So a synecdoche is a part used to designate the whole, or the whole to designate a part. A part used to designate the whole as, give us this day our daily bread. That is food. Daily, the word bread stands for the food, right? All hands means the crew to the pumps. Uneasy lies the head that wears the crown. That any person who's wearing the crown, that person is not having an easy life. You have to face a lot of problems. A fleet of 50 sail, that is the ships, left the harbour. All the best brains in Europe could not solve the problem. Brains here refers to people. So many brains are working for preparing the virus for corona. Are the brains actually working or the people working? So here it stands for the people. He has many mouths to feed. Here the word mouth stands for people. Okay. Moving on to example, I hope you're making your own example. I have started with the class. I told you have to do literary devices. You cannot miss the topic. You have to do it thoroughly. And please make your own notes, examples. Please mail me all the examples that you have. You can mail it to Law Prep Jodhpur and I would get all those. I would answer back all the things. Do not keep any doubt in your mind. Everything should be crystal clear. I insist on it. If you get the question there and your doubt is there in your mind, is it this, is it that, you will not be able to do the question. It is very, very important that a student is able to do the question only when his mind, his doubts, his things, his concepts are clear and his doubts are removed. So remove all cobwebs of doubts and prepare your notes thoroughly. Write and inbox all those examples to me. Mail me all those examples. Even in the photos of you can WhatsApp the photos of your copies, the notebooks that these examples have made. Please check me. I'm always ready. I'm always available to do all that work you want me to do. I prepared a quiz, I prepared a lot of questions on this. Do write what problems you're facing in English, what you want more to be done in English, where the things lie stuck. I'm working on all those books that CLAT has also prescribed. Punachi I'd worked on. I'm reading 2 more novels, preparing those notes, and preparing the questions for you. I've taken all the papers, done a lot of homework, and simultaneously prepared a lot of questions and the exercises for you. So do all those exercises and come up with all your doubts. Next one that we had is the whole is used to designate a part. Like when I say the England won the first test match against Australia. England won the match. Did England win or the team of England win? India won the match. Did India win the match? Did we and you go to win the match? No. So the word India stands for the Indian players, Indian cricket team. So this is a part and whole relationship. I hope it is clear to you. Metonymy is a kind of a substitution from the Greek word which something stands for the other, and there is a symbol for it. In synecdoche, it's a part-whole relationship. The part stands for the whole and the whole stands for the part, right? So I've taken up for today 5-6 little devices. I'm moving on. I took irony with you. Just I'm revising so that you don't feel that it's difficult. What do you think opposite of that happens is irony? Pun is a play of words which creates some humorous effect in your mind. Metonymy is substitution, and synecdoche is part-whole relationship. So simple. Moving on to transferred epithet. I say I was coming from the tired way. Is the way tired or I am tired? In the exam, I don't want you to write with a nervous pen. Pen can be nervous? No, pen cannot be nervous. If pen cannot be nervous, so who is actually nervous? The student. Right? So in this, the feelings of a person are transferred to the object nearby. And it's very simple because the word itself says transferred. From one to the other, the feeling is transferred. In this figure of speech, an epithet is transferred from its proper word to another that is closely associated with it in the sentence. For example, he passed a sleepless night. Is night sleepless or is he sleepless? Maybe he has come so got some tension in his mind, he has to prepare questions, he has to submit his notebook to ma'am. Sonia ma'am wants the notebook and examples and I have not submitted. Maybe that is the tension. Keep that tension. It's important you keep this tension. Right? So moving on to he passed a sleepless night. The ploughman homeward plods his weary way. This is from one of the famous poems, Deserted Village, when the farmer is moving on, coming back, and he's tired in his way. He is tired after his daily chores, the daily work that he is supposed to do in the field, the hard labor. The way is not tired, mind you. The farmer is tired. But the feelings of the person are transferred to the object nearby. The lackey presented an obsequious cup of coffee. Obsequious is used for somebody who is, very much submissive or servile, bending person, very fawning by nature. So, obsequious coffee. Can actually the cup of coffee be obsequious? No, the person is obsequious and that is presented to it. Now turning to litotes. Before I explain you litotes, just simple explanation. I have some questions and further exclamation and anticlimax, onomatopoeia for you to do. So before I do that, litotes is the sentence will be written in negative, but the meaning would be positive. I repeat, the sentence will be written in negative and the meaning would be positive. Okay, if I say I am not non-vegetarian, not non-vegetarian. So what does it mean? I am vegetarian. When I say that he is no mean poet or he is no less person, that means he's a great person. So you are writing in negative, the meaning comes out to be positive. In litotes, an affirmative is conveyed by negation of the opposites. The effect is to suggest a strong expression by means of a weaker. It is the opposite of hyperbole. So what do we do in actually hyperbole? In hyperbole, we exaggerate the thing. We make a thing very high flown. We make it something very large and big. Actually, we, you brag or boast in hyperbole. In litotes, you make it less and you use negative words and the meaning comes out positive. See the examples. I'm a citizen of no mean country. No mean city, that means no mean refers to a very celebrated city. The man is no fool. No fool means very clever. I am not a little surprised. That means not a little surprised means greatly surprised. Right? So you've understood litotes. Turning to exclamation, please write before it and do note with it that exclamation also means rhetorical questions. Actually, no, that would be, interrogation. I don't want you to be confused. That's what I wanted. To exclamation, you do not confuse with apostrophe. Apostrophe, right? In apostrophe, you address to somebody. Oh, wild west wind. And the answer is not expected. In exclamation, you express your sudden feelings of surprise, happiness, joy, laughter, whatever your feelings. And this is a sudden overflow of feelings. Hooray, wow, alas, bravo. These are all exclamations. And it's very easy to determine why, because there's an exclamation mark. So what is exclamation? In this figure, the exclamatory form is used to draw greater attention to a point than a mere ball could do. The words could not do that work which little bit of meaning could do. Little words give a more meaning. What a piece of work is man. Famous lines of Shakespeare. What a piece of work is man. These lines are taken from Hamlet. He utters a wonderful soliloquy in this, and when he utters this wonderful soliloquy, at that time, when he's speaking the soliloquy, he says that man, what is the use of being a man when your only work is just eating, sleeping and drinking? It gives a wonderful philosophical message, and man is the best creation of God on this earth. And wonderful lines. I would like you to read this wonderful soliloquy of Hamlet. While even discussing every time, every class, I tell you, keep reading. Reading makes a complete man. Whether it's a vocabulary class or it's a reading comprehension class, I do keep telling you, and I'm telling you again. So what does actually mean exclamation? In this, what is the word is exclaimed, the sudden feelings are there. Do read the tragedies of Shakespeare, the 4 great tragedies: Hamlet, Macbeth, King Lear and Othello. Hamlet, Macbeth, King Lear, Othello. Don't tell me I don't have the text, ma'am. Where to read from? I'm even sending the PDFs to the Jodhpur branch of the short stories and all those things which I want you to read. If you don't get this book, if you don't have any kind of the thing, no problem. Read the synopsis. Read the Wikipedia description of it, the story, the outline, the plot of it. I hope you'll be easily able to do that. Okay. Look at the example. Second, how sweet the moonlight sleeps upon this bank. You can at least recall and remember this exclamatory mark. Yes, exclamatory mark. Oh, what a fall was there, my countrymen. This is the exclamation mark. The person is addressing and is surprised at his feelings. Very, very important literary device, anticlimax, right? Anticlimax naturally would mean is the opposite of climax. And suppose there was a very funny anticlimax which I want to share with you. Like, a person's house was burned. A person's house was burned. He lost all his valuables. Everything. He lost all his valuables, and everything was burned in that house. He lost all his valuables. His car was also burned, and he could not find his spectacles too. Doesn't create something funny? Higher to lower form, you're talking that his house was burned, he lost his valuables, his car was also burned, and his spectacles. When everything was burned, all those valuables were burned, these spectacles were also burned. Is there any requirement to mention this trivial little thing? No. The king won. Another example. This is a very funny thing. You really enjoy reading anticlimax. The king, won the battle of Troy. The Battle of Troy, which lasted for 10 years, and he came out victorious. There was a flag hoisting, and there were songs of laurels being sung. Suddenly the king realized he didn't have his breakfast. This is anticlimax. Yes, this is anticlimax. When from a higher to a lower form you move and you create a very funny, satirical, ludicrous situation, this is anticlimax. So it is a higher to lower form first thing. See, there are two ways you could find higher to lower form. We could find like she's the CEO of the company, she's the director too, and she's a good mother and she's a good human being. From higher to lower form. And its purpose is just satire or making fun of something. Look at this example. Hear thou, great Anna, whom 3 realms obey, does something counsel take and sometimes tea? And thou, Dalhousie, you must be all remembering the great Dalhousie who gave the doctrine of lapse, the great god of war, Lieutenant Colonel to the Earl of Mar. This has been the example in the AILET 19 also. The same example we find there. So I hope it is clear what I started with irony. What does irony mean? What do you say opposite of that happens? What is pun? Pun is the foreplay of words. What is metonymy? It's a substitution symbolizing something else. Synecdoche, part stands for the whole and the whole stands for the part. I want with my class itself, remember, your time shouldn't go waste. Most of the students do not want to attend the videos saying, I know this, I know that. Attend the videos. Learning from the experienced teachers will always be a feather in your cap. Always a teacher is a teacher, would add to your knowledge, would give you some tips, some examples which will help you in your examination. Then I did was transferred epithet. Transferred epithet is when you transfer the feelings of a person to another person, that is the object around, that is transferred epithet. And anticlimax, you move in the higher to the lower form. The purpose is making fun of or satirical. Onomatopoeia. Now, onomatopoeia is meaning something, the sound indicates something else. The sound is expressive and interesting, and it is defined as some sound for something else. Like, for example, the chiming clock, the clock sound, right? The rustling wind, the thundering clouds, all this is the pitter-patter rain, the door thud shut. Just simplest meaning. Forget the definition for a minute. What is the meaning, simplest meaning I'm trying to tell you? It is the sound. Every object has some sound in it. The sound associated with it, that is called onomatopoeia. Onomatopoeia is defined as a word which imitates the natural sound of a thing. It creates a sound effect that makes the thing described, making the description more expressive and interesting. The expression and the discussion, of course, becomes interesting because the sound is also, when I said in the famous poem of Philip Larkin, The Church Going, we have the lines, he left the door thud shut. Now the door and door के साथ क्या दिया गया? Sound. So what is the sound of the door? Thud shut. The rustling leaves. So the leaves, and then they are also talking of the rustling leaves. So the sound that is created by it. For instance, saying the gushing stream flows in the forest. So the stream sound is associated with it. This is onomatopoeia. It's a more meaningful description than just saying the stream flows in the forest. See that ornamental language. Actually, literary devices is ornamental language. You add flavor, you add spice to your language, you make it very interesting. See, when you have got a habit of remembering these literary devices, speaking in the literary devices form in day-to-day life, it becomes very interesting, very spicy, very flavory and catchy too. So it's an ornamental, wonderful language. See, such a flat and simple sentence. The stream flows in the forest, and the gushing stream flows in the forest. Just a word. We feel as if the stream, we feel the stream. You know, the gush of the wind. We feel that. The reader is drawn to hear the sound of the gushing stream, which makes the expressions more effective. We feel the stream is actually flowing. The word gushing brings the picture. This is called, sensual effect. The picture of the stream is created before your eyes. You know, Keats talks about it affects your sense organs. We've got 5 sense organs. This is called the sensory effect. Your senses imagines that thing and draws a picture of that thing in your mind, and you understand what is it being said. In addition to the sounds, they represent many onomatopoeic words have developed meaning of their own. For example, the word whisper not only represents wispy or breathy sound of the people talking politely, but also describes the action, the people talking quietly. The people whisper, the whispering of the people, right? Or the wind whispers, moving very slowly. The buzzing bee, see the sound, it's alliteration to buzzing bee. The sack fell into the river with a splash. You feel as if the sack is falling in the river and it's making a sound, a splashy sound. The books fell on the table with a loud thump. He looked at the roaring animal lion. The rustling leaves kept me awake. I couldn't sleep. The chiming clock, the rustling leaves. So this is the sound of the object. It's a very ding. I'm getting married. Ding dong goes the bell. So ding dong goes the bell. The bell sound is associated here. So this is onomatopoeia. I hope it is clear. It is associated with the sound. Now the exercise for you. Before I turn to the exercise, I hope everything is clear. Let's recap the things that we have done. What is simile? Comparison between two objects with the use of the word like, as, such, or so. Small metaphor, comparison between two things, but there's no use of these words like, as, such, or so. I'll do very quickly. Within 1 minute, I want you to remember. Personification is considering a non-living thing as person. And when we talk of epigram, we have a well-known saying, quotation, which has got in-depth hidden meaning in that. Then we talked of course, besides that, hyper exaggeration, tall talks, making castles in the air. Then oxymoron is combination of opposites. Irony is what you think opposite of that happens. Pun is a foreplay of words. The words have some meaning which is created in a very ridiculous, funny way. Then metonymy, substitution. Synecdoche stands for part, whole, relationship. Transferred epithet, you transfer the feelings of someone to the object there. The object and the feelings are associated, the sound especially. Transferred epithet, the feelings of the person are transferred to the object. Onomatopoeia is the sound is associated with the object. I hope now the things are crystal clear for you till here. Antithesis, which I have taken from the higher form to the lower form, and that climax is a twist and turn in the story. And when we have this, each and every sentence, I want you, first thing I asked you to read the novels of Jane Austen. I asked you to read the tragedies of Shakespeare. See, it hardly takes time. You have to just, when you're done with your, maybe your data interpretation or your critical reasoning or your legal thing, then turn to your light reading. There are hours of leisure, and we really enjoy those hours of leisure, every one of us. And instead of, killing your time and letting that time leak, please do wonderful reading. And this reading, will make you a perfect person. The way you are going to toss your thoughts, know the words, you're going to toss your thoughts. The way you present your ideas will be totally different. A well-read person is always a remarkable thing, a remarkable mark that he leaves on the other people and the audience. And I want you to do the same. So we turn to our questions now. I hope everything clear, and I'm waiting for your doubts which you would write to me. Language is the art of concealing thought. Now, when we talk of synecdoche, as we discussed, what is the definition? Whenever you have a question, you would revise the definition in your mind. Synecdoche means part, whole relationship, when the part stands for the whole and the whole stands for the part. Epigram means a well-known saying which has an in-depth meaning, some more meaning hidden in that. Simile is the comparison between two words with the word of like, as, such, or so. And personification is considering a non-living thing as person. So when we have this type of question, language is the art of concealing thought. This is neither part-whole relationship, there is no like, as, such, or so. There is no non-living thing considered as person. So what will be our answer? Our answer is, this is an epigram, right? This is an epigram. Second question. They speak like saints and act like devils. So, like saints, like devils, first thing is like word. We need an simile, right? And you know, always it happens when you're ready with your answer, that's not in the multiple choice. This is always there in life too, so you also have to keep this in mind. There is no simile choice here. The students jump to hasty conclusion like this is simile, ma'am, with this something to be done in this. Now they speak like saints and they act like devils. You find two opposite things, right? So two opposite sentences joined together is called antithesis, right? Synecdoche is part-whole relationship, apostrophe you address to someone and the person doesn't answer. Irony is what you think opposite of that happens is irony. So in that case it is antithesis. Brave Macbeth with his brandished steel carved out his passage. Means he took a piece of steel with him and carved out his passage. What does the word steel here stand for? Steel here stands for his sword, maybe his weapon, maybe his gun, maybe his pistol, whatever. This is all those wonderful literary devices you would find. I insist my students to do this reading of the 4 tragedies of Shakespeare for literary devices especially. Brand steel, the word steel here stands for the weapon he is carrying. So it's a kind of an substitution, and this is called a part-whole relationship, and that is why this is a synecdoche. As it is why part-whole, because this word steel can stand for his gun, his pistol, his sword, his weapon, his armor, whatever, but he's trying to protect himself. The last 2 questions, right? At the end of our class. A little more than kin and less than kind. I do want to, again, I did mention the bracket while framing this question. This is from the famous tragedy of Shakespeare, Hamlet. Hamlet's mother Gertrude, his father is killed by his uncle Claudius, and his mother remarries Uncle Claudius. She doesn't know about the truth of Claudius. So Uncle Claudius dies. Uncle Claudius, kills his father. When he's introduced to his uncle, his father's brother. So he doesn't know that he's a culprit, but he didn't like him, the Claudius, and he was not liking the hasty marriage of his mother. So he makes this comment, these nice famous lines of Hamlet. He says, at his father's funeral, a little more than kin, means my uncle is more than kin because he is now my stepfather, less than kind, but he does not understand, but he's not like my father, he's not considerate and loving, he does not have that milk of human kindness flowing in him. So he's kin. Kin means some more than a blood relation, but he's less than kind. I hope the meaning is clear by these. So this is a kind of, what you would call it? You tell me what it'll be like. It's a play of words, so it is a pun. And the last question. And faith unfaithful kept his falsely true. You know, 2 opposite words. Faith unfaith, falsely true. 2 opposite words. What is it called? 2 opposite words. Oxymoron. Litotes is writing in negative, meaning is positive. Anticlimax is from the higher to the lower form, and synecdoche is when you are talking of part-whole relationship. Though our answer is oxymoron. The first question, the answer we have taken is epigram. Most students says, ma'am, what is the answer for question 1? I'm repeating. With this first question, the answer we took was epigram. The second question is the answer, that is the antithesis. The third question, the answer is synecdoche. The fourth question, pun, and the fifth question, that is oxymoron. I hope you enjoyed the class. We'll be coming up with all the questions that have come in AILET paper and some 2-3 more literary devices in our last class of the literary devices. That is, I've prepared 3 classes because I am expecting 3 to 4 questions. And I want to clear every doubt of my student related to this class. For today's class, thank you so much. Thank you for listening. I hope you'll practice well. You'll come out with the best of your things, and hard work will pay in the long run. Thank you.